Alrighty, we're going to log out as me, and we had another user, Nicole G. We're going to log in as her, and all users have a password of password while we are testing. Log in as Nicole. Something has happened. Let's log out. Let's log back in. Refresh. Let's log out. Let's look for our everywhere we are accessing an access token. Only here, only in one spot. Pretty sure that was fine. Where we should be looking is in login. Oh, sorry, sign in. So there seems to be something wrong here. We're not passing our tokens to our login function when we should be. Silly, silly, silly. And so the way to get around that, or to update that, I think we just forgot to do it earlier. Yep. Silly Billy. So we're going to go response.data.tokens. We're going to pass that third value to our tokens. See, this one here. And we're going to make sure that we have the same for sign up, because we're going to do some signing up in a moment. We can save that, and then it should all work now. Now we'll log out, log back in. There we go. It worked. So we don't have that error anymore. Okay, so we're going to upload Nicole's thumbnail. I'm going to pick this one. Sweet. So now Nicole has a thumbnail. Now we have another problem. Type. Incoming message has no type attribute. And something wrong with the server, probably in our consumer. Let's look for type. Type. Let's see if it'll give us a line number of some sort. Just realized there's something else that we need to add. We need to close our socket. Not sure if this is gonna do it, but it'll get us one step closer. Now we're going to upload a different one. That worked. And no error. Not sure. No idea why that worked. Okay. It has been a while since it has been at least 24 hours since I was here. So maybe that was something to do with it. Anyway, it's working now, so we can keep going. Ugh, so annoying. So we can log out as Nicole, and then we can sign up. We need to create a few more users. And at the very beginning, I said we were going to create new users that have an N in their name, and that's going to help when we start searching. We start typing the word. I mean, you can pick any letter. I just use N because my name starts with N. And it could be the first name, last name, or the username because that's what we're going to search. So I'm going to create some random names. And just give a password. Let's give Ben an extra N. Sweet. Ben Nelly. What a cool name. This looks like a Ben. Sweet. Now we're going to create Johnny N. Call this guy Johnny. And Nelson. Password. Sign up. Add a thumbnail straight away. And this guy, Johnny. Log out. And then two more. We'll go Nina Bradford. Nina B. And this looks like a Nina. And one more. We'll call it Nola. Nola Nuggets. Nolan. Password. Nolan Nuggets. And yeah. Okay, sweet. Now we go to our login, our admin, we log in, make sure we're logged in here into our users, and we can see we've got all these different users now. Nicole Green, Johnny Nelson, all good. And they all have an N in their name, which, as I said, it's going to be important in the next step when we start searching. So hang on for that. And we'll do that next. Time to search. Okay, when we click on our little magnifying glass here, nothing happens yet. We want to navigate to a search screen when we do that. And this is, should be accessible from every page, which we want. We want to be able to search. So we'll add that now. This is where we click. And we'll make sure that we have our search screen by looking at our app. Yeah, home search messages. Yeah, we added that earlier. Go to home and clean some of this up. Now when we click this, actually we'll wrap this up. On search. should do it. So when we click on our search, we're navigated to our search page. Yeah! Okay, now we can start building that out. So we're going to build out an input, a text input. So we're going to be able to search for users. Like that. We have an error. Oh yeah, cool. So we need to add a state for our query. Save that. Check. Use state. You need to import that. There we go. What's going on here? Good. Now we might need a wrap. Yep. Not quite. I need to push this back over. Yep. There we go. Now we have a nice little search bar in its own little section. And then when we start typing, it's going to list users down here, which it's not doing currently, but it will. So we'll clean this up. And we're going to create some dummy data for the moment. Actually, we're going to create a search list, or the results from a search list. But we're just going to hard code it for and build out a view, and then we're going to actually fetch that data from the database. So we're going to update the database. So we just call this search list, and we just call it null. Because when it's null, we're going to assume that it's empty. And we created, we've got to create an empty. So there's an object called an empty, which is very useful. It's a pattern I use all the time. I'm going to provide an icon We're going to make this in a second. And then if we have nothing, then we're just going to say just an empty view. Empty, yeah. So when we go into our common, create a new file, call it empty.jsx. Now this is something I like to display whenever a list is empty, and you'll see what this looks like in a sec. It's a very good. I mean, it's a great pattern. I think it's, you know, I basically put, like, it's one of my go-to default common objects that I create in pretty much every project. You know, similar to, like, you know, a button or an input, something like that. It's as vital as that. Save that. Reload. Import out empty. Okay. I forgot to add the size. Silly me. 90. There we go. And now our message is not displaying. Why is that? Message. Message. Why isn't my message being displayed? What the hell? What? Let's wipe that out. I think we need to give this a flex of 1. There we go. Yeah. These don't extend all the way to the end unless you give them a flex of 1, and then they hide our text as we just saw. So I can undo that. Yep. And then just undo. There. Back to where we were. Nice. Okay, so we're not going to display this when it's, sorry, messed up. Okay. This one is going to be displayed here when our search list.length is equal to 0. That's when we're going to display that one. When it's null, we're going to display something different. We're going to tell people to search for their friends. There we go. So when we start searching, it's going to change, which it doesn't yet because we're not hitting the database, but when our search list isn't null, it's empty, then we're going to get whatever we were searching for, it's going to be displayed here. So no users are found for blah, 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 blah. And then when we actually have users in the list, which we'll add now, we're going to need to give some users that have a few different, we're going to make this later in the database, but for now we'll just fill it with some fake stuff. They're going to have a thumbnail, which we'll just set to null for now. They're going to have a name. They're going to have a username. And they're also going to have a status. And we'll see why they're going to have that in a moment. There are going to be four different statuses. So we'll make 4 different users with each of those statuses. So the first one's going to be pending them. And the reason we're making these statuses is because if we've requested to join a user, or if they've requested us to join them, or if we're already friends with them, we want to see the status of that pop up in the list straight away. And we'll see exactly what that looks like. And then it's going to be connected, and then not connected. If it's not connected, it means that these top 3 means that there's been some activity already. This means that we're free to try and connect, or free to try and send a request to that user. Something else. Silly red, silly blue. And then there should be nothing there because we need to create a list, a flat list. Make sure flat list is imported here, as it was if you let IntelliSense do it, like so. And then here, and then it should import it for you. Should be very familiar with that sort of stuff by now. Item username, so item. So we need to make sure that our usernames are unique. So silly N, silly A, silly B, silly C. And we don't have a search row yet, so we'll make that. pass a user. Make sure our thumbnail is imported. See what that looks like. Yay. Now we're going to add the rest of it. Make sure text is imported. Let's put this in a view. And we'll have the username as well. So we'll just copy this text here, so no need to retype it. And the color will change, and it's not bold, and there's no margin. Username. There we go. It's starting to come together. And we also are going to add our search button. Now, button at the bottom, this button is going to be different depending on our status, which we placed here. So we'll create a new one. A new object, pass the user as well, pass it on, and up here. So if our user is already connected, we want to just indicate that with a font awesome icon, just a nice little tick. See, this one, silly red, is connected. So we have a nice little tick, and we can't do anything once we're already connected. There's no need to continue on. Now, if it's not, we are going to create a little switch statement here that's going to build up the type of button that we're going to produce. So the text is going to be the text of the action that we want to perform when we press the button. We want the button to be disabled in some cases. If you've already sent a request to that person and we're waiting, it's pending them, then we don't want to do anything. So that's the only time it'll be true. And we want an action. So what do we do when this button is pressed? we'll do nothing for now, and then we break. And we want 2 more of these. And then a default. So when pending them, we're waiting for them to accept our request. I'm going to say pending, disabled is true, and on press, we want to do nothing. So we're not going to add an action here at all. So we're just going to leave that as nothing. And then here, pending me, that means that they have sent me a request and I'm waiting, and they're waiting for me to accept. It's not going to be disabled, and we're going to get to the action in a moment. And once we have that data, we can create our button. There we go. Now we have some buttons. This one can't be pressed, which we don't want. We want to be able to accept right here in the list. And must have spelt pending me. Must have spelled this one wrong. Pending me. Pending me. Going on here? Pending them, pending me. Except that one's not wrong. No connection. I think it's not connected. Yep, that's going to be no connection. No connection. Say that. There we go. And so when there's nothing, there's no activity whatsoever, we're going to be able to connect. When someone sent a request to us, which we will be able to see next, after we've done our search, we're going to build out this requests page. We're going to be able to see any requests we have right here and right here. But we can also, and we'll be able to accept from our requests page, but we'll also be able to accept from this list wherever we see this user. And they're waiting for us, we'll be able to go bang, accept. And pending, that means we're waiting for them to accept. So in their requests page, it'll be visible, but not in ours. And this is our list. And now we need to hook it up to our API. So when we start typing, we're actually going to fetch what we're after. So we need to make, in our global, got our thumbnail section. I'm going to make a new section for searching. So thumbnail, call it search. And we need to make our search list that we had before. We need to put it in here because data is going to flow from the database via our socket here, and we need to update it, and we want it to be reflected in our search as we're typing. So not upload search, we want to go search users, give it our query string. And if there's no query, okay, only if we have a query are we going to do all this, because if we don't have a query, if we hit delete, so if we go like this, we start typing, and then we come back to this point, we don't want to send a search of nothing to the database. We just want to empty it, and we'll see what that looks like. So we go query, and then here we're going to call this one search, and we're going to just pass our query, and we don't need anything else. And we're just going to set our search list to null if there's no query. We need to add a little comma there. So this is our search list now. So we can come back to our search here, and instead of our search list that we have here, we are going to just comment that out for now. And we need to grab our search list from our global. Make sure that's imported. Save, should still work. Yep, it's null, it's what we expected. So it's displaying our empty search for friends because there's nothing there. And then when we want to search for our users, we're going to have to put that in a use effect. So we're going to search this search users, which is our function. We need a use effect here. We want it to change whenever query changes. Or we want it to be triggered whenever query changes. Sorry. And we just need to go search users and pass our query. And that's all. And then when it's called initially and it's got nothing in it, or when we hit delete, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to go, ah, no, search list is empty. Nothing to do here, nothing to see here. And I think if we start typing, it will send it to the database, and we should be able to see that. So we'll come over here and we'll refresh this, make sure we're connected to our socket correctly. Go over to search, and we should see some things over here. When we start typing, we're going to start searching for a user. We'll just type NABC, and yeah, this just needed a second to refresh. But we're receiving a search with our characters. That's exactly what we wanted to see. So now we need to go over to the database side, and we need to implement all of this search stuff. So get rid of our empty, get rid of our home. We'll keep search and global open. When you go to our consumers, and when we receive, we want to search for our users. It's the search type. You can elif it here. We want to call self.receive search. Pass our data. Now we need to create this function. So data. Now we need to build this out. And there's going to be some interesting code in this one. If you've ever worked with Django, we're going to do a not, a pretty decently complicated query, because we need to fetch the status of every user, and we're going to do it in a way that is efficient database-wise. Now, there's more code than we might like, but I'll try and explain it best I can as we go. So we need to grab our query. User, have we imported our user? I don't think we have. Put our user. We also need to import something that's going to allow us to make more interesting queries. Our queue object. Queue, just like that. And then, so this is going to allow us to search for if our term starts with, so if our username, if our first name, or if our last name, if any of those fields start with our query term, we're going to count that as, we're going to include it. So we're going to, first one is going to be username, and I starts with, so this is going to do a case insensitive search for our query, and then adding this queue allows us to put this OR operator here, and so we'll be able to do the first name as well, and also the last name. So this is, and we'll get rid of that last one. And so this is going to allow us, this is why I said that we wanted all of our users to start with N, so that when I start typing the word N, or the letter N, when I start searching, it's going to pick every single user, and then once I start typing additional characters, it's going to filter down from there. It's just going to help us visually see what's going on. Now we want to exclude, so this is Django's query builder. So when we go filter, we're creating some, this is going to build up some SQL. And then when we add additional functions on the end here, like exclude, it's going to add additional SQL. It's going to build up the final SQL that it's going to send. And it does this in like a lazy fashion. So it doesn't actually make any requests until you actually hit the database. So it's sort of building up the query for us, and it's hiding a lot of details from us, but it's trying to sort of build it in the most efficient way that we can. So we want to exclude ourselves. We don't want ourselves to be returned in this request at all. Now the really interesting part is we're going to annotate. We're going to annotate this query with additional information. So we're going to basically give each user additional keys. And we're doing it this way because it's going to be really efficient, because otherwise we have this problem. It's called the N+1 database problem. If you want to look that up, I think I might have, I think I have database N+1 problem. There we go, you can just read it here. I found this a little while ago, it's pretty good. Basically, it prevents us from, you can look through this in your own time, but basically it prevents us from having to hit the database multiple times. If we have to grab a list of items and then we need some additional information, which we do, we need to know, the status of the pending them, the pending me, and whether or not they're connected. So we want to be able to hit the database and add additional information all in the one query. It's going to do this efficiently, or as efficiently as it can. And so we're not going to have to hit the database multiple times. We're just going to send one query. It's going to contain all the information we need, and it's going to return additional keys that the model itself doesn't necessarily have. And trust me, it's going to be kind of ugly, but it's going to produce a much better query than we would if we were like looping through, like if we grab the users and then we loop through and then we go, okay, for this user, grab all this information. For the next user, grab all this information. Terrible, terrible way of doing it. So this is why we do it this way. And you can read more about annotate on the Django documentation. They have a section on it. As I said, I'm not going to hold your hand. We're just going to pump through it. So we need to know if a connection, which is an object that we need to create this. This is a model that we haven't created yet. Actually, you know what? We'll get to that in a minute. We won't worry about that for now. We'll just pause that, and we will serialize them and return them, and then we'll display them, and then we'll come back to this annotate in a second. So we want to serialize the results. So I'm going to create this search serializer in a second. Users and many equals true, so we expect it to be more than one. This is a list, and we'll create that in a second. We need to send this. We need to send the search results back. So remember how we did that before? This send group down here. And it's a search, and the data is our serialized data. Exactly the same as this one, except for this time. So we can save that, and then we need to go to our serializers, and we need to make a new serializer down here. I'm going to call it our, as we already did call it, our search serializer. It remembers. And we're just going to subclass our user serializer. Now, the reason why we're going to do that is so that we have access to this function, this getName function. We're not going to rewrite that function. We're going to have it by importing like this. And we're going to create a status and we need to implement our getStatus function. And we'll just return nothing for the we'll just return no connection for now, but we will come back and update this in a moment. So we'll save that, and our consumer should be fine. Let's see, no problems. Reload. Over to our search. Now, moment of truth. Just type the one character N, and we got a problem, which of course we do. We didn't import our search serializer, so we go over to our consumer, and then from here we'll import our search serializer. Save that. Refresh our app. And back to our search, type N. That's great. That's awesome. That worked exactly how we want it. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. So we've got 6 users, and one of them is us. So we expect to get 5 users back. And this is exactly what we wanted to get back here. Our user, thumbnail, status, none of them are connected though. So we want to display that, but we have no response global. Come up to the top, we have no response search function. So we're going to implement that now. That's why it said, past source search not found, because we haven't implemented that yet. So come down to our socket, and then we create a new entry in our responses called search, response search. And we need to create that function up here at the top in this socket receive section. Response search, set get data. It's pretty simple, actually. It's almost the same as this. So we can just copy that, and we just need to. This data here is our search list, data search list. This is exactly what we want straight away. So we can refresh. We'll refresh again just for good measure. And when we start typing now, yeah, there we go. Our users are being displayed, but our thumbnail is not. Why is that? Let's see what's going on there. In our search row, our thumbnail is user.thumbnail. Go to our profile. We pass our user.thumbnail. So why isn't it working in our search? We pass our user.thumbnail as well. But it's not displaying. Right here, go to our profile. Ours is working. So why isn't anyone else's? Yeah, should be working. Let's close our server and rerun it. Refresh. That doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to console.log our URL undefined. That's why. So our thumbnail. User.thumbnail. So in our search row, let's our URL, and I used path. That's why. How silly of me. There we go. Much better. All right, I'm going to delete that. Delete this. So again, how awesome is that? That looks sick. Okay, so now we've got our users. They've all got thumbnails. We're looking good. All right, so now we want to be able to connect with our users. And see, this is why we start with N, which they all have an N, and we start typing, and then they progressively filter down. And I just pick the names specifically so that when I type in NIC, it will filter down in this way. And so if you pick different names, maybe you get lucky, maybe it'll filter down nicely like that, maybe not. But if you pick the same ones I did, then you'll be able to filter down nicely like that, and it updates dynamically. It's pretty fast. Yeah, it's pretty good. So now we want to be able to hit connect, and actually I'm going to, over here, I'm going to log in as me over here, so we can finally see, we can finally use both of them now. I'll log in here, and I can go to my, so this is me. So logged in as two different users here now, and I can, obviously I can search here as well, and I can It's all the same. So in my requests, the way it's going to work is it's all real time. So it happen you don't have to reload lists or anything like that. So when I search over here for a particular user, we've got me, and then when I hit connect, it's going to update here, but it's going to display here instantly because it's going to post a message. It's going to go to the server, and the server's going to be like, hey, you, I've got a new request for you. And then it's all, I did not use the term real time for nothing. That's exactly what it's going to be. It's going to happen instantly, and, this is the whole point of doing this type of socket, way of doing things. Obviously, it's going to be helpful for us when we get into messages and things like that, but this is the first case. This is the first case of a message being sent from the server to me from some other action that someone else has triggered. So a request has been sent to me by another user. They've done something, and then the server's like, bang, here's your request, boy. And then we're gonna get to that next. Okay, so